Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for Tuesday, the 15th of October. All right, just come out of the Monday trade day. Now we're just heading into the Asian session here at the start of the, the Sydney session. Now, looking at the overall markets, there's no major change. Now we did, as I pointed out yesterday, Canadian, US, and Japanese holiday Monday. So markets overall pretty much on hold. Now there is one weird thing, right? So just having a look at that. So there are the geopolitical events clouding the fundamental drivers. And what I'm talking about is it's all this toing and froing and backflipping from Trump, right? Whether he's in such damage control. So what we are seeing at the moment is Trump sort of changing policy, like in Turkey in particular, pulling the troops out. Now he's telling Turkey to stop doing what they're doing. It's like it's a bit of a travesty what's happening. He's got this impeachment stuff, which is slowly building in the back end. And that's going to be something that we have to deal with. Now, that's these sort of issues. And here's this Trump ex-Russia advisor testifies in impeachment inquiry. You've also got the Brexit. Some updates here. Hangs in the balance as EU doubts a deal this week. So there's all these little bits and pieces, right? And this is what is sort of moving or shifting the currencies around a bit. You're also getting these opinion articles, like we see at the top here. In planning for next US recession, economists say don't fret about debt. I mean, this is all a little bit crazy, as the three major geopolitical events that we have been tracking for ages, or the Trump impeachment one's a bit of a new one, but these are simmering in the back end. Now, there's no major data. There's holidays everywhere. So what happens on the charts or the major currency pairs is they just drift, right? If you're trading these currencies, they are just drifting about. Now, we're looking for some sort of idea what's happening on China. And that's going to impact Aussie and Kiwi directly, being the two big exporters to China. Now, they've just drifted back into the range. Now, both of these pairs are, to me, in sort of somewhat downtrends overall, long term. But at the moment, they've lost momentum. The domestic data is a bit mixed. And then you've got the US dollar picture, which is being driven by Trump, or the geopolitical side of things, not the Fed. And that's why we're not really getting any consistency on the moves. Dollar yen, bit of a short squeeze, really above 108, sort of 20, as news leaked sort of over the weekend and on Monday about a potential start of a deal between the US and China. Euro, well, we saw Euro sort of shift up above 110.20. To me, it's just sitting here in limbo, right? To me, overall, you've got to be thinking Euro's going down, but right now, that momentum has gone, right? So what we're waiting for is something tangible to hang our hat on, and that's going to be a fundamental driver, not a geopolitical situation, which, the momentum of those events fluctuates, by the hour almost. Now, sterling sitting up here at 126, the figure. What's going on there? Well, you know what? Unless you're in those meetings, we won't really know for sure. Now, I was saying last week when the sterling was down at 122, I wouldn't be surprised to see it up at 126, 128. Now, where it is right now, I wouldn't be surprised to see it back down at 122 or at 130, to be honest. It's going to go one way or the other, you'd think. But until we get an announcement on October 31st and it happens, you're going to see some pretty wild volatility. Now, dollar CAD had that big shoot down, big clean out on the Canadian employment numbers last Friday. What's happened now? Well, this is the bit of the short squeeze. It's just squeezing back up towards 132.40. This is the initial resistance level or support level of break, which is now going to act as resistance. Oil, it's just whipping about the place. So there's no real consistency there either. So that's where we are on the major pairs, right? So you're looking at these trend lines, and they're just sort of shimmying through those trend lines. So we've lost all that momentum. Now, what can we do about this? Well, what you've got to try and do is come back and piece it together. And this is why we set out the analysis the way we have. So you can get a very clear overview of what's happening across all timeframes: hourly, daily, weekly. Now, you can think of those as short-term, medium-term, long-term, but we've been a bit more specific. So we're looking for general pairs. Now, the hardest part for us is the central bank sentiment, right? We're missing a bit of this. Now, the Aussies and Kiwis are still sort of very nervous about what's happening there. And that's because they've got that direct tie to China. If China falters, well, they are already faltering. They will actually sort of slide very quickly. So just be aware of that. But this is where you've got to sort of factor in the fundamental data that is going to be released over the next 24 hours. We've got the RBA minutes, right? This will give us a bit more insight into the back end of that meeting, right? We get the statement at the time of the interest rate decision, and then we come back and have a look at the minutes and see what else were they talking about. And that's very important for us. We've got Kuroda speaking here now with that typhoon hitting Tokyo. Well, I can't see too much happening. He may sort of be talking about that. He may be talking about what else they can do. But to me, there's not a hell of a lot he can do at this point. And the Bank of Japan doesn't exactly have a lot of dollars to spend. So I don't think you're going to get a lot there. Now, but as we come through Tuesday's trading, we do have quite a few things. So starting with the RBA minutes, we've got the Chinese CPI numbers. That's going to be important for, obviously, the Yuan, Aussie and Kiwi. Then we've got the employment numbers out of the UK and Carney speaking at the same time. Then we've got some German zoo numbers. And then to end the whole day, which is really the start of the next day, is the Kiwi CPI. All right, so that's where we've got a fair bit of stuff coming out. A lot of this is going to be pretty active in the Asian session if we do get some sort of variance in these numbers, or if we do get something out of the RBA. Then, so just keep an eye on that. When you come into the North American session, you can see there's a shortage of any sort of data. And what that means is it's going to come back down to these geopolitical events, in particular the Trump impeachment stuff and the China-US trade information, where the US dollar goes. And that's the uncertainty. We don't know when these releases are coming out. We don't know what they're going to say. They're not numbers. It can be ambiguous. So just be aware, if you are trading and managing positions, these things could shift around on various updates. The data that does come out here, okay, the fundamental drivers, we will get short-term momentum from these. So if anything, if you're desperate, look for an opportunity where there is significant variance. That Chinese CPI has got be a bit of a go-to, and we'll see how that plays out. All right, guys, that's it from me. Have a good trade day. Cheerio.